right, you ready?
I'm ready.
Cool.
Yeah, thanks.
This is Jackie, and I'm here with Matt of August Burns Red. We're at the Fillmore Silver Spring. I haven't spoken to you in a really long time, and I kind of feel like this is sort of a flashback. But speaking of flashbacks, I caught online your cover of The Legends of Zelda,
Uh-huh.
the metal version. How did that come about? Because I'm an old school gamer who still has Zelda Gold, and
Okay.
you know the.
Wow. Well, I'll be honest, I don't know much about Zelda because I didn't grow up playing it, but I know as much as I've been told and I've overheard from Dustin, who's our bass player. He loves Zelda. He has a tattoo of Zelda.
Well, I would hope so now. Like
Yeah.
either that or you have to get one now. Like
Right.
that's the options, right?
Right.
Well, it's a
And
very cool version. I like it.
yeah, it's cool. So he's like, I want to do this cover, and we're like, all right, I'll play drums on it, and so he put it together, organized it, we recorded it, and it's funny. Almost every day someone comes up, hey, are you guys playing Zelda tonight? And it's not an easy song to play. We have to be rehearsed on it. So we played it one tour for the encore, and it was fun. Everyone. It was newly released at that time, so everyone's like, oh man, like we know it's coming. We know they're gonna play it, and Dustin got to play guitar on it, obviously. So it's fun. It's a fun little track.
And speaking of flashbacks, you guys have been together as a band for like longer than some of your fans have been alive, for
Yes,
like 16 plus years.
100%.
What do you attribute to your band's longevity?
I would say number one's consistency. Um, we haven't always been climbing, I wouldn't say, but we've always been consistently putting out records that we think are good. And as long as we think the music's good, we're going to tour on it because we're proud to play it. And if we think it's good, then in most cases fans see that, authenticity, like this band's playing what they want to play. And so they come out to see it. And, as you know, metal shows are really fun live, and we're on tour all the time. We don't let people forget about us. And the five of us in the band are family. We get along really well. Most bands that break up, unless it's because they became unpopular, they wrote a bad record, it's because they spontaneously combusted, internally. And that just isn't the case with this band. The same thing's true with our crew, even. Everyone's really close. So I would say consistency and just grit.
And that you like each other, that always helps too. Um, s-
That's helpful.
yeah, and your albums also have longevity. This tour is to celebrate the 10-year anniversary of Constellations.
Hmm.
Why do you think that those songs still hold up in what kind of seems like a really fast moving scene right now?
That's a great question. Constellations, at that time, we were listening to like, As Lay Dying, Between the Buried and Me, Killswitch Engage, Under Oath, and you can hear all of that in the record, right? But those bands, you look back at those bands' music, and it's still really good. It's like this is quality stuff. So our mentality's always been to push ourselves as hard as we can musically. So when I write drums for a song, I usually can't play the drums I write. I have to like slow them way down and think about each part. And so because you're writing ahead of the next curve in the road, by the time you're down the road, you can look back and it's not all that far behind you. And the same, that's why Constellations doesn't feel antiquated completely because we didn't write a record that was already old when we wrote it. It was like we're trying to do as much as we can with what we have and write the kind of music we love to hear. I mean, it's full of breakdowns, it's full of thrash parts, it's full of, melody and crazy drumming and catchy one-liners. So that kind of stuff just hangs around. It's more so like the experimental stuff that might flop 10 years later. Or like the singing choruses when you didn't used to sing, and it's like, ah, man, that was kind of a weird era. We didn't really do any of that.
I always take a look at, there are a lot of bands that are still with us that are sort of celebrating
Yeah,
10-year anniversaries. Then you look at the bands that kind of fizzled out since then, and I think that
right.
sort of answers
Yeah,
to what you're talking about.
yeah,
How do the songs on Constellations compare to your most recent release, Phantom Anthem?
yeah. There are definitely similarities, but as we go back and play these songs, number one, this record's faster. Um, it's faster tempo, and it's usually faster tempo for the entire song. Whereas Phantom Anthem might have some fast parts, but then it's going to kind of dive a little bit, have some dynamics. Not a lot of dynamics on Constellations. It's pretty high voltage, heavy metal the whole time. Um, Phantom Anthem, I think there's more texture, there's more instrumentation. This record is just like, okay, there's drums, two guitar, bass, and vocals. Maybe a piano every now and then, you know. Whereas Phantom Anthem, there's tons of string sections that are backed, and there's just a lot more texture.
And Constellations was once streamed on MySpace. I read that and I was like, wow. So if you had to pick some bands, who would be in your top eight band wise?
Top 8 bands of the current era or 10 years ago?
Either or. I
Okay.
like that.
Yeah, so 10 years ago, actually not a lot's changed to be
No,
honest. I would say 10 years ago it would have been like As Cities Burn, Under Oath, Killswitch Engage, Between the Bird and Me, and then other bands would have been like The Killers, Coldplay. Um, those are bands I've liked the last 20 years of my life, it feels like. So I'm 33, so now 10 years later, I like a lot of those same bands, maybe drop a few of the heavier stuff out and put in more, say like Daft Punk. I like old country, when I'm home. I listen to a lot of radio. There's two different types of brains. One is the musical brain, which hears the song, but then they also can't unhear the analytical part where they're breaking down everything. The other brain just hears the song. So being a musician, I hear everything, and it's hard for me to listen to music because I break down everything. I don't just hear the song. So the radio is helpful because it's just in the background. I'm not picking it apart, and it can be anything. It can be Florida Georgia Line, or it can be Hillsong Worship, and it's fine. It's just background. You know.
That's interesting. I never thought about that. So 10 years ago when Constellations came out, we didn't have the current music sort of tools that we have. We have
Right.
music streaming, which seems to kind of override, tangible album sales.
Yeah.
Where do you think the next 10 years might go as far as how we access music?
Hmm. Well, I think it's going to continue down this road. I just signed up for Spotify Premium like last week. I just didn't have it, and I love it. I absolutely love it. It's incredibly easy to use. Is it a different experience than buying a CD? Yeah, 100%. But the world in which we live, you have to pay extra for a CD player in your car. So you have to roll with you just got to get with the times. And 10 years from now, it's just going to be, I mean, inevitably, it's going to be easier and easier to listen to a song. Any song in the world, you pick a song, you're going to be able to hear it like that. And now you can tell something in your house to play the song, and it plays the song. So what's the next step? I don't know. It reads your mind. It knows what kind of mood you're in. It knows what time of day it is and what you typically listen to. So there's those sort of ideas, but they're all kind of there already. It's like how easy is it to play a song? About as easy as it gets. You know.
Do music videos still have value now? We don't have a channel that we can tune to anymore to watch.
Right, right. I remember MTV Headbangers Ball watching Unearth back in like 2003. Um, Man, those were special days. That was cool. It was like the first time you heard the song, you saw the video.
Yeah. I mean,
So,
like the premiere, it was like a thing that you like made a point to tune to.
yeah, yeah, it was a big deal. There's definitely a place for them. Um, we we as a band don't enjoy shooting music videos because in the end, typically they don't do a whole lot, and they're a lot of work. People don't realize that, but you wake up really early and you're working all day on one video, and I can never be an actor. It's brutal, brutal, brutal. Um, but if your video stands out and there's something about it that is special, people will be like, "Hey, have you seen their new music video?" But unless it has that wow factor, I think you're going to see less and less of them. You know,
And that's a lot of extra work too to like come up with the thing that's going
with the
to
thing,
spark.
with the wow factor. Yeah, exactly.
All right, interesting. So, do you have plans, or what are the plans for a follow-up to your last
The
album?
Phantom Anthem. Yeah, we have plans. We have a lot of touring right now, so there's nothing in the works right now, necessarily. But we have a little time off after this, and then we go to Australia, and then a little time off, and then we go to Europe. So we're just focused on Constellations and playing that record from start to back everywhere we can. We're about to have North America checked off. We have 4 more shows. We're here in Silver Springs, Maryland, and have my sisters coming out tonight. I haven't seen family in like 2 months, so it'll be cool. But yeah, it's we try to be consistently putting out records, and so it won't be too long before there's another one.
Do you feel any sense of like pressure? I feel like certain bands are like every year, every 15 months we have to put out an album, or is it more organic? Like now we have something new to say, so let's get back in the studio.
For me, it's more pressure, 100%. I think the reason I still play drums is because I have a band to play drums in. Like if I didn't have a band to play drums in, I would have probably quit because it takes a lot of effort. Same thing with writing a record. The last couple of years have definitely given me. I've gone through some things that have created some fodder for some new lyrics for sure, and I've written quite a lot. So in that way, I'd say that stuff's organic. But the musical side of it, where I'm actually like writing the drum parts to a song, that is work, and therefore it's pretty forced, I would say, until you get into it, and then it becomes organic. You know.
Once you get the ball rolling.
Yeah, exactly. Once you get the ball rolling. Yeah.
So now that you don't have anything, quite going on yet, but do you think moving ahead, you are more likely to put out a cohesive album that sends one specific message, or because of music streaming, do you feel like you have either a duty or the freedom, either
Mhm.
one, to send out something that is more eclectic because you never know what's going to draw in a fan?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, excuse me. I know this idea of people jumping around because it's on shuffle and you're just picking one song. That's sort of a newer idea. Our mentality has always been write what we think is the best thing and go with it. It doesn't matter what type of fan it caters to or what type of medium people are listening to it on. So I could see us writing a very cohesive um, record in the sense that all the songs sound like they belong on the album and all the lyrics feel like they were written in the same time frame. But the thing is, several of us write lyrics. So I write lyrics, Jake writes lyrics, Brent writes lyrics, and so like my lyrics are definitely different than Brent's and Jake's. I wrote a lot of lyrics for Constellations, and at that time I was writing with this certain theme, like your mind is the mountain before you, and you know, call to action stuff like this is happening, so do this. I still write like that a little bit, but I think I write a little bit more poetically now. So I don't know. It could go either way, I would say.
I think it's interesting to see what happens as far as bands in general. Are they going to keep putting out whole albums, or are they going to focus more on the EPs or the one-off singles? I
Yeah,
think it really depends on where we're going
right.
with digital music versus the tangible. I'm still the old school person who buys CDs because I have a CD player in my car, but
Sure.
not a lot of stores actually sell them.
I
So
know.
it's kind of a pain in the ass.
It's very it's yeah, I still love CDs, and there's something about that like we bought CDs. And so there's something about that people won't ever know and understand that are, younger. That was special. But they'll have something that their, next generation won't understand. Like, and that's kind of bizarre to think about. Like, oh yeah, we used to download this app and stream this song. It was pretty hard. Like, what? What? Yeah, that sounds about as easy as it gets. But there will be a time when, you know, it gets easier, I guess.
I hope so. I hope something gets easier. 2019 has been like kind of crazy rough, and we're not there yet. And I'm not trying to like rush to December by any means.
Yeah.
Young people, and I think older people as well, but I'm still fairly young, so I'll include
Yeah.
myself in this.
Yeah.
Younger people tend to listen to music when they're having a tough day.
Yep.
What music do you turn to if you're having a rough day?
So as far as the musical part of it, I listen to worship music. Not necessarily always for the lyrics. I just like the ambience and slow, spacey stuff. Like I could listen to explosions in the sky. I could listen to like Sigur Rós or Coldplay, but I like listening to Hillsong and Bethel and Elevation music. But then I listen to a lot of podcasts.
Okay.
So I like to hear smart people talk about things that they know a lot about. And it doesn't matter what kind of day I'm having. Well, I'd say typically on those bad days, I love listening to, um, you know, say it's a political commentator or a pastor or something like that. It's very fun for me.
So you definitely have a very busy 2019, lots of touring, fill up another passport, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Um, what do you think is next for you guys after all the touring? Breaks? A little more breaks?
Yeah, let's go home and celebrate Christmas.
And you guys do a really good job about celebrating
Yes,
Christmas.
we
So
do.
I think that's a good thing to look forward to. So stay tuned for much more from August Burns Red. This is Jackie. Thanks